I like this. It's very niche. I wanted to talk about lust. Um, Sexual lust is a big distraction. Or it can be. How much energy has been spent in religion on matters regarding sexual lust? Renunciation, priesthood celibacy, the forbiddance um, of illicit sexual relations. So much time and effort and energy over the years has been focused on this one topic of lust, sexual desire. Why? For the same reason that there's such an animosity, I don't want to say animosity, that there's such an energy surrounding death, mortality, what happens after death. It's the same fright. Because sexual lust is a vulnerability in the human condition that has the potential for great ecstasy or great ruin. And because of the sensitivity of its power to determine the course of our lives, because of the intensity of its power and its presence, it gets so much attention. What is the answer? I could go on about moderation, abstinence even, about how being taken by sexual lust or masturbation or pornography ruins someone in a myriad of ways. But I think we've all heard that before. I think the real poison that comes from lust, that potentially can come from lust, the real poison, in the end, is like with money. You can give yourself to something which you think will meet an end, but which turns out, in the end, to be fruitless and hollow. People can waste their lives chasing riches, only to get rich and be unhappy. Lust, whether for sex or for money, really essentially shares that characteristic of hollowness. It's not to say that the feeling of lust, the feeling of sexual desire toward other people is evil, because it isn't. It's just basic. It's as basic as the consumption of food or water. It's something that, in the condition we're in, we're equipped with. And like other things that we're equipped with, it is our duty, in a matter of trying to be civilized, that we moderate that or try. And that's the important part. Sexual lust ought to be detached from. But we have to be careful with that notion of detachment, because we equally cannot become detached to the idea of detachment. Or we equally cannot become attached to the idea of being detached, because that in itself becomes a false imagery that we fake and that we try to isolate and abandon that very real and authentic part of ourselves. Snuff it out. Bury it. That's not an honest approach. To have a rigidity and to adopt a kind of frozenness. But our job ought to be acceptance. Because when you reject and resist, for example, our feelings of lust, and we don't involve ourselves in the navigation of those feelings, but isolate and alienate them and bury them, that's when they adopt the poison. It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. To combat lust is to not combat it, to accept it and let it be as it is, and let it pass as it was. Acceptance is the key. People have a tendency to give energy and thereby bestow ammunition to their flaws or to things which potentially could gain the energy. And sexual lust is one of them. Greed is another. And these things, given the energy of our attention, of our constant struggle to contain and to fight, given that energy, they grow, they don't disappear. My point is, first, worry about acceptance of what we feel becomes a distraction in our lives, such as lust. Worry about acceptance to begin with. And moderation will flow from that acceptance almost naturally, instead of artificially trying to kill an authentic part of ourselves and making this artificial saintliness that inevitably fails one way or the next. That, I think, ought to be the answer to the question of lust, rather than the answers that have hitherto been provided by and large.